something that you guys didn't see was I congratulated Gizelle on where her daughter was going.
Oh, I did as well.
I even said to her, you know, is she going to be an AK? Like I
Yes.
brought up our
I wish we would have shown that.
That didn't
Yes.
happen. It didn't happen.
Yes, it did.
Nope. Don't remember that.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 8, Reunion Part 2. And before we get into it, let me just be so honest with y'all. You guys almost did not get this video because watching this solidified for me that I am officially done with this franchise. And it's been so painful watching Candiace and Wendy be gaslit and pretty much forced to apologize and be the bigger person when they have been treated so poorly by Gizelle and Robyn and damn near everybody else on the cast. But I do want to say shout out to Wendy, because Wendy, the way you ate everybody up when they tried to touch on colorism, and Robyn, shame on you for trying to pull a Karen and trying to force out those tears that never came. But I said, girl, the audacity and the unmitigated gall for you to now play victim regarding colorism. Because, oh my gosh, we're being accused of being colorist. Girl, let me just stop you right here. Because, one, Candiace is not the one who brought up colorism. It was the viewers. Because a few of us clocked the BS early on. And if I remember correctly, I was one of the first content creators to bring up the colorism on this cast, and that was back in season 5. It was not Candiace, so please stop putting the blame on her. Also, Robyn, when you went on to say, oh, well, we argue with everybody, just because we argue with a brown person, that means that we're colorist, that's not what it's about. The point is, when you argue with Karen or Ashley, the difference is you're able to make up with them and move on. When you argue with Candiace or Wendy, you cut them off completely. You have all this hate and vitriol in your heart for them. So that's the difference. You're not going to play in my face, and you're not going to pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. That's not happening. But this part 2 showed me exactly why Candiace bowed out and said, shout out to everybody, I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
I gotta be good.
Because I don't believe in staying in a toxic environment, especially not a toxic work environment. And I damn sure don't believe in being in a place where you're tolerated and not celebrated. And in this case, Candiace is not even tolerated. They just flat out hate her. She cannot win. And when you are in a lose-lose situation, it's time for you to go. And Andy, you know I love you, but shame on you for showing your favoritism and just grilling Wendy and Candiace and coddling Gizelle and Robyn. Very shameful. But you know what, y'all? With all that being said, let's just jump right on into it, because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. This second part opens up with where we left it off last week, with Mia being grilled by Andy about why does Ink believe that Jeremiah is his child. Now, I'm not going to hold you guys. We're not going to spend too much on the Mia portion because I didn't care, and Mia lies so damn much, I'm just over it. But Mia says that Ink thought this because there was some overlap. They did have an affair, but at the end of the day, she does know her body. She had an IUI, and Jeremiah is Gordon's child. You hear Ashley saying, oh yeah, Jeremiah is definitely Gordon's child because they have the same underbite. Now, I rewatched the finale episode, and there was a scene where Mia's kids are playing with each other, Jeremiah and Juju, and when the camera zoomed in on Jeremiah's face, Jeremiah looks just like Gordon. So I said, yeah, I know it makes for a great storyline, all suspenseful, but that is clearly Gordon's child. But it is sad that this was ever brought up in the first place, because I just don't think that it's right. So I loved how Karen jumped in and said, look, I don't care who this baby's father is. At the end of the day, children are off limits, and this baby's going to grow up and see this one day, and let's move on from this, please. And I said, Karen, I'm right there with you because I feel the same way. And Andy trying to get a slight attitude like, okay, we're moving on. And it's like, Andy, don't get defensive. It's the truth. You have a child who has to deal with this being talked about on national TV. This isn't fair to him. And again, say what you want, but Potomac has truly gone down the drain, because how do we go from season 1, where it was all about etiquette and class, to now Mia on the show and she's giving us love and hip hop? And a cute fun fact, I used to be in Jack and Jill, so I know a lot about the Potomac franchise, right? Potomac was originally supposed to be called the Potomac Ensemble. It was not supposed to be a Real Housewives franchise. Jack and Jill received word about the show. They sent Bravo a cease and desist letter and said, no, we do not want to be featured or talked about on this show. Please change it. So that's the only reason why there was such an emphasis on etiquette and class, because it was originally supposed to be about Jack and Jill mothers. Bravo said, let's just change it and turn it into a Real Housewives franchise. And that's why we're in this boat today, because you have Mia coming on, who's a thirst bucket and desperate for a storyline and a check, that we have storylines like this where we're discussing who's the father of this child. A hot, raggedy mess. Andy addressing how Robyn got a lot of hate for not talking about her situation with Juan, and pretty much saying, well, how come Mia didn't get the same amount of hate about her story with divorcing Gordon? So Mia says, well, that's not true, because when me and Robyn hung out, remember earlier on in this season, I think it was episode 3 or 4, they went to that salt cave. Mia says, well, when we hung out, I told Robyn that I had filed for divorce. So I had been honest from jump. I'm transparent. And that's the reason why I didn't get any hate and Robyn did, because I was sharing that me and Gordon were on the rocks. Now, Mia, I will give you a point for that, but let's not act like you're honest, because when it comes to the truth, you and the truth have a very strange relationship. So you tell the truth maybe once every 20 times. But Miss Robyn, let me just get on you, because had you been honest the way Mia has been about her marital issues, I can assure you that you would have been signed back on for season 9. You have Gizelle jumping in, asking Mia if the reason why she's divorcing, does it have to do with Gordon not having the money and Ink being financially stable? Mia says, no, that's not it. And now you have Robyn jumping in and saying, oh, it's because of his age, isn't it? And Mia says, no, it's not that either. The thing with me and Gordon is he used to just snap at me. He was combative. I didn't like that. He'd be waking me up at 4 a.m. to talk about business. And then he emptied out my accounts to $0. And that's a form of financial abuse. And I couldn't take it anymore. Now, Mia, let me just say this, and it's no shade, but with the life that you've lived, right? I'm surprised that you, of all people, wouldn't know to have your own account. And even Gizelle said, yeah, just for the record, always have your own separate account. And I said that's the only time Gizelle has ever said anything that's made some sense. Andy pressing Mia about this so-called inheritance that she allegedly had when she entered the marriage. I don't believe a word, because if you had more money than Gordon, I highly doubt you would have married him. I just don't believe this. And also, let's not forget how Mia acted in season 6 when she first joined this show. She was always bragging about how much money she had and how she was the CEO of the business and she made $500,000 and she was doing so well. So I can assure you that if Mia really did have an inheritance, we would have heard about it. Because like I said, Mia is tacky. But Mia goes on to say that a year into the marriage, she found out that Gordon was pretty much functioning bankrupt. He was just spending loads of money. They had this extravagant wedding. And then she goes on to add that she just wishes that she knew about this because she could have helped him manage his money better. Again, I just don't believe anything that comes out of Mia's mouth for the most part. A lot of times it's lies. And honestly speaking, if she had this grand old inheritance, I just don't believe that she would have married him. She married Gordon for the money, and now that the money is gone, she's out. And she's finally going to be with the man that she's actually attracted to. So Andy gets on the topic of Mia and Gordon being sued for unpaid rent for their apartment in Bethesda. And Mia says, yeah, we have to go to court about that. Gordon was still living there. I moved out. And I don't think that it's fair that I have to cover that whole entire rent. Gordon needs to kick in and chip in his part as well. Now, Mia, how is G going to chip in and pay his portion? You just said a few minutes ago that you're still helping him out financially. He has no money. You're giving him money to eat. So I don't know where you expect him to come up with this money to pay for this apartment in Bethesda. Imagine getting with a man almost 40 years older and now you have to give him money because he's broke. That would be my 13th reason. And here's what I mean when I say that Wendy and Candiace are held to a higher standard. Because when the topic got brought up about did Wendy and Candiace know anything about the divorce since Eddie and Chris hang out with Gordon, and when neither one of them answered, you have Mia saying, well, everybody in this group reached out to me except for these two. And I was just like, damn, we're not friends. So when Wendy jumped in and said, but Mia, when Gordon had called up Eddie, he called you everything but a child of God. He damn near annihilated you, and I never repeated what he said about you. So now you have Mia still asking, but why didn't you reach out to me or check up on me? Even Karen did, and me and Karen have gone at it all season long. And I just said, Mia, first of all, why do you need anybody to reach out to you about this divorce that everybody saw coming? And also, girl, you have a boyfriend and a husband. So how much emotional support do you need? Go cry about it with your boyfriend. You have your husband who still wants to be with you. He's like, look, you can have your boyfriend. Let's just be together for optics. So again, I'm not believing that you're just so distraught about this whole thing because you got two men that you can talk to. Also, let's not forget the biggest issue. You assaulted Wendy last season. Did you forget that? Because I didn't. And I asked you about it at BravoCon too. You remember our talk because you said, why am I so hard on you? And I told you. So how dare you twist your mouth to say, well, why didn't you check on me? Are we even friends? Are you serious? Baby, you assaulted this woman. You threw a drink in her face and then you went upside her head and hit her with your clutch. You need to be thanking God that Wendy still talks to you and still is sweet to you after what you did, because had you done that to me or anybody else, we would never speak again. But I just said the audacity for you to feel like Wendy and Candiace owe you grace when you've been awful to them and you guys are just now getting to a point where you guys can be cordial and friendly. And also, Miss Girl, I didn't forget how you did Candiace in season 6 when you came on this show. And the fact that you were still trying to play dumb when Wendy said, Mia, let's not forget that last year you and I were not in a great place. You had just physically assaulted me. And of course, you have the peanut gallery over there, Gizelle and Robyn, talking under their breath. You have Robyn saying, I thought Mia apologized. Didn't she apologize? Then you have Gizelle talking about, oh, they were bumping vaginas, weren't they? Girl, that's neither here nor there. The point of the matter is this woman assaulted her. Also, hold on for a minute, because the way y'all two hold grudges, the way you guys refuse to acknowledge or speak to Candiace or Wendy, now Wendy has to forgive Mia for what she did to her. So you guys are the only ones who are allowed to not forgive and move on, but Wendy has to. Got it. And Andy, the favoritism is just jumping out, because when you said, but I don't understand why you couldn't just reach out to her. Sir, are we really doing this right now? And Andy, this is why people say that they would rather have somebody else host, because your bias is really jumping out. It's just not fair how you guys want to hold Candiace and Wendy to a different standard. Why do they have to reach out to folks who have treated them like garbage? And Mia talking about, oh, well, if the shoe were on the other foot, I would have reached out to you guys. And I know that we're a sisterhood, right? We're not that heartless. I just said, girl, shut up. So now we have Andy asking Mia if the other women have met Ink. A few of them have. We find out that Wendy is Ink's favorite. Wendy was just like, oh, I know that's right. He loves the Godiva goddess. And did you see how tight Robyn and Giselle's faces looked? I said, girl, y'all are so pressed. Like, Wendy really has y'all so bothered. So Andy wants to know Mia's living situation right now. We find out that she's living in a penthouse in DC. It's 1,100 square feet. Gordon is currently in Charlotte, but he's going to be moving back to DC across the street from where she's living now. So now you have Robyn jumping in and she's like, Mia, can you just clear something up for me, please? Because I'm just so confused. I remember you saying that you were in Atlanta. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I said, now, Robyn Dixon, girl, don't question anybody. The nerve. And if I were Mia, I would have said, Robyn, it's none of your business. You didn't share one thing about you and Juan, but now you want to question me about what's going on in my home? Like, girl, you're out of your mind. I said, it's just like, you really can't make this up, because the same woman who has not said a word, she hid her entire storyline, told it behind a paywall on her podcast. Now she feels like she can question somebody else. I mean, again, you can't make this up. But I just said, Robyn, you're the wrong person to question anybody and ask for clarity. So now we're done with Mia's segment and we jump to Gizelle. And before I go in, I just want to let you know right now, if you are a Gizelle fan, feel free to X out of this video or just fast forward, because I have nothing pleasant to say about Gizelle Bryant. But if you are a Gizelle fan and you just happen to be a glutton for punishment and you want to make yourself upset, feel free to stay for this segment. But don't say that I didn't warn you, all right? Because I let you know. So anyhow, they play her montage, but mind you, they ended with Wendy talking about how she doesn't owe Gizelle any grace or sympathy because Gizelle was talking badly about her mom when her mom was in the hospital. So before Andy can ask Gizelle any questions, Gizelle says, before we get started, let me address one thing. That's a bold-faced lie, Wendy. When did I ever make fun of your mother? I had no idea that she was in the hospital. So Wendy says, it was earlier on in this season, you said that you were on the phone with Jamal and you called my mother evil. I remember what episode Wendy's talking about. I think it's either episode 2 or episode 3, where they're getting ready for the Austin trip and is Ashley, Gizelle, and Mia shopping for clothes, and they're talking about the whole shrine situation. And Gizelle makes a comment saying, yeah, I was on the phone with Jamal and he told me, oh my gosh, don't mess with that. That stuff is real. And then she adds, Wendy's lying, saying that she has no idea what her mom is up to, but she knows they're all in cahoots and her mom is working together for evil. It was something of the sort, but the word evil was used, and it was in regards to Wendy's mother. And Andy, I was waiting on you and everybody in production to play those tapes back, so that Gizelle could see that she did say that about Wendy's mom. Of course, Gizelle can never own up to anything, so she's playing dumb. She's like, Wendy, what are you talking about? So now Andy jumps in and he's like, Wendy is saying that while her mother was in the hospital, you called her mother evil. Wendy says, yes, that's correct. That's what I mean. So now Andy says to Wendy that Gizelle is saying that she had no idea that Wendy's mom was in the hospital. And Gizelle says, yes, that's correct. And I said, okay, Gizelle, while I'll give you that maybe you had no idea about Wendy's mom being in the hospital, the point still remains that you called her mother evil. And when Wendy jumped in to say that to you about how if we're trying to move forward, let's respect each other's parents and not call them names, you start talking over her, deflecting. And I'm like, damn, you really have an issue taking ownership. How hard is it to say, you know what, Wendy, you're right. I'm sorry, I had no right to call your mother evil. My bad. That's all you had to say. But talking over her like you're 5 years old at your big age, are you not embarrassed? And another thing, since Gizelle is not a reader, if you notice, all she can do in an argument is talk over people or just repeat herself. It's very sad to watch. And Gizelle, you know good and damn well that all hell would have broken loose had Wendy called one of your parents evil or said anything of the sort. So the fact that you don't even have the respect to say, you know what, Wendy, I was wrong for that and I'm sorry. It shows you that you have no character. But all Gizelle can say is, stop lying because I had no idea that your mama was in the hospital and I stand by that. And I said again, Gizelle, while that's fair that yes, you probably didn't know about her mom being in the hospital, you still have to own up to the fact that you did call her mom evil. Gizelle's ego, lack of self-awareness, lack of empathy, lack of decency for people, that's going to be her downfall. So now Andy brings up Gizelle's father. We all know that he recently passed away. And Gizelle says that her dad was the only one who was supportive of her about joining the show. She goes on to say that her dad never wanted a funeral. He wanted a celebration of life party, and they had a big party for him in New Orleans. It was great. It was what he wanted. And then she goes on to say that her dad was a great man, and she lucked up when it came to fathers. So we find out that Robyn was at the ceremony and how Karen was supporting her. Karen called her up. She was at the house. She wanted to make food for them, and she appreciates that. So while Gizelle is going on about her dad, right, we flip over to Candiace on the other couch crying. It's clear that Candiace is sad and she does feel for Gizelle losing a parent. Child, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm telling you, Gizelle must have a black heart because the fact that Gizelle can't even recognize that her enemy is showing her care says so much. So Andy pauses and he points out that Candiace is crying. And he's like, Candiace, I'm curious to know why you're crying. So she's not answering because she's still choked up. She's emotional. And Mia jokes around saying, oh my gosh, Andy, you know Candiace, she cries because the wind just blew. So now you have Gizelle jumping in and she's like, yeah, she cries when it's not even about her. I was just like, wait, time out. Girl, you're angry that Candiace is crying about you losing your dad. Are we doing that right now? The fact that you're mad that Candiace is showing that she actually does care. If Candiace weren't crying, you would be saying something about that too. And that's how I know that you just have so much hate in your heart that you're angry that somebody who you've fallen out with is still showing that they care about you. You can say what you want, but I will never be upset if me and somebody that I don't talk to shows me some compassion or some empathy. I can still recognize that. That's a beautiful thing, that you still care about somebody where you can show that you still do love them and you are sad for them. There's nothing wrong with that. That's really sick to me that you just have so much bitterness and anger that you cannot even recognize that this woman is showing that she does care about you. And when Andy said, well, Gizelle, that is nice that Candiace is showing that she cares about you and you would not even say a word. Your face was just so twisted up. I said, oh my gosh, she can't even say, thank you, Candiace. I appreciate that. And before anybody says, oh, Brooke, would you acknowledge that if that were you? Yes, I would, because I'm a decent human being. And that's really sad. And it says a lot about Gizelle that she's angry that Candiace is crying about her dad passing away. It's giving sociopath. And again, for anybody who wants to argue with me in the comments, feel free. But let me just say this. If you follow me for quite some time, then you know that my dad passed away 3 years ago. It will be 3 years in May, right? And I'm 20 years younger than Gizelle, and my dad was 20, 30 years younger than her father, right? My dad was a young man, and his passing was unexpected. So I had people that I have gotten into it with that I do not talk to, and they even reached out to say, Brooke, I'm so sorry, and I could acknowledge that and say, you know what, I appreciate that. So again, for anybody who wants to go toe-to-toe with me in the comments, feel free, but I know what it's like to lose a parent. Unexpectedly, I might add. So I don't want to hear it about, oh, well, you know, you wouldn't take it kindly if somebody that you didn't like was crying. No, that's not true, because I experienced a loss of a parent, and I had people who I did not like, people who actually did me wrong, and I could even acknowledge that what they said, them showing their condolences, was a sweet gesture. So there's something wrong with Gizelle that she could not acknowledge that Candiace was being nice and that what she was doing was very sweet. So yeah, y'all, I'm just so irritated because I've just never seen anything like that, where you have somebody who's just so hardened that they can't acknowledge anything. Again, Candiace, I do not blame you at all for leaving this show. You did the right thing for your mental health and your sanity. Good for you. So now Andy pivots to Gizelle's daughters, and he says that it's been incredible watching them all grow up. He compliments how everybody's a great mother. And now Andy reads a viewer question asking Karen if Karen could have taken a stronger stand when Wendy and Candiace were making faces while Gizelle was talking about Grace. So Karen says, let me just make something clear. I am not responsible for anybody, and I damn sure am not responsible for what Candiace and Wendy do. Let's be clear about that. Then she goes on to point out how everybody in this group makes faces when they don't like somebody. And I said, thank you, Karen. Please call it out, because what y'all won't do is act like Candiace and Wendy are the villains, because that's not the case. So, of course, Gizelle is angry that Karen isn't saying what she wants to hear. And she's like, Karen, don't do that. Don't do that. So Karen's like, no, girl, it's the truth. So now Gizelle starts screaming that she was talking about her daughter. And I said, Gizelle, we're not going to play these games. You know good and well that Candiace and Wendy were not making fun of your daughter. That's not what that was about. They were making faces because you were talking and they don't like you and you don't like them. That's what it was about. When Candiace and Wendy talk, you make faces too. You roll your eyes, you're sighing, you're looking off to the sky because you can't stand them. So they did the same thing to you, and now you want to be butthurt about it. But again, do not act like this is about your child, because it was not about your child. It was about the fact that you were talking and they did not want to hear you. That's what it was. I loved how Candiace said, I regret that Gizelle is sitting up here weaponizing her children to make me and Wendy seem like two evil individuals. So now Gizelle is mad and she's like, I have never weaponized my children. And I said, yes, you have, and you're doing it right now. So now Wendy jumps in. And Wendy says, but Gizelle, I went up to you and I congratulated you about Grace going off to college. And I even asked you, would Grace be an AKA? Because remember that Gizelle and Wendy are both in AKA. So now Gizelle starts screaming and she's like, that never happened. That's a lie, Wendy. You never said that. And Wendy says, it is the truth. I said that to you. Like, we can play the tapes back. So now Andy's like, oh, production's telling me in my ear that they don't have the footage. I said, it's so convenient that you guys don't have the footage when Wendy and Candiace are in the right, but let Candiace and Wendy be in the wrong. You guys have all the footage and all the screenshots. That's some BS, and that's bogus that y'all don't have the footage to show. I was just so irritated. I said, y'all really have it out for Wendy and Candiace. It's disgusting. It's really shameful. Because I don't believe this at all. Wendy has no reason to lie. And Wendy is very gracious. She sat up there and forgave Mia for hitting her. So I know that she said, congratulations to Gizelle. Gizelle, you're a liar. And you refuse to acknowledge anything that Wendy and Candiace do. So you're going to sit up there and lie and say that it never happened. But Wendy, I believe you. I believe that you're telling the truth. And shame on Gizelle for sitting up there trying to make you out to look like a liar. So now Andy starts asking Gizelle about Jason and their fake pseudo relationship, situationship. I don't care about that.
No.
So now we get to Candiace's segment. And we started off with Andy asking her about the lump that they found in her breast. We find out that she got a second opinion. She went to a breast specialist, and thankfully the lump shrunk, so she did not have to go and have surgery. And she gets emotional. She starts crying. And Karen says, God is good. And they're all like, thank you, Jesus. Won't he do it? And even Andy says, you know, I'm happy to hear that. And you would just think that Gizelle and Robyn could offer some sort of just, you know, something, and they couldn't do that. They're just looking at her stone face. I said, you know, it's a sad thing to just have that much hate in your heart that you can't You just can't be a decent human being. Like, my God. So Andy brings up that Candiace had a great tour. She was in 9 cities. And he goes on to ask her what was the biggest room that she played in. So Candiace says that the largest venue that she performed at was at the Fillmore in Silver Spring, where they have 1,200 seats. So now Andy asks the real questions, and he's like, so what was the deal between you and Drew Sidora? Because she opened for you at your show in Atlanta, so why didn't you want her to open for you again? We find out from Candiace that she wasn't here for the way that Drew Sidora does business, and it left a weird taste in her mouth, and that's the reason why she did not want Drew to open up for her again when she was in Chicago. Now, it made sense because Candiace's reaction to her manager asking about Drew, her facial expression said it all, that something went down. Drew, you better check yourself before nobody wants to work with you. So now Andy reads a shady viewer comment addressing Ashley about the Michael Darby lawsuit. So the comment reads, Ashley, why are you pretending like you had no idea that Michael was filing that lawsuit against Candiace? Because obviously he still funds your lifestyle and you were hoping to get a piece of the money too. So Ashley's like, let me make this very clear. I had no idea about the lawsuit and I didn't stand to gain any money from it either. I just said, girl, shut your lying self up. You know that you and Michael plotted to get money out of Candiace, so please stop. I find it interesting that the lawsuit was for $2 million and that's the same amount as your house that you can't afford and need Michael to help you with. But again, I don't believe a word. I was happy when Candiace said, well, honestly, my mom thought that Ashley was behind it. And then you have Ashley saying, well, no, I wasn't. Sorry, Miss Dot, but it wasn't me. I said, okay, girl, you set Candiace up any other time and you want us to believe that you had nothing to do with this lawsuit? Now, again, I watched the extended and uncensored version. So you have Andy asking, well, since the court case has been thrown out, could this help your friendship? And you have Ashley saying, well, the court case never affected anything. That was never a factor. Only time will tell. I was just like, Ashley, girl, nobody is checking for you. Please stop. And you have Ashley making faces while she said it. I just said, you know, oh my gosh. Can they please fire Ashley off this show? Please. As much as I cannot stand Gizelle, I'm going to need for them to fire Ashley immediately. I can't take another season. She has got to go. Here's where the BS really comes in. We move on to the Candiace and Robyn beef. Andy brings up how he always felt like Candiace and Robyn had a really cool and fun friendship, despite Candiace and Gizelle being at odds. So you have Robyn jumping in and she's like, hold on, because Candiace and Gizelle were also friends, and you have Gizelle saying 100% we were. So it wasn't like it was just me and Candiace and then they were on the outs. Her and Gizelle were also friends. We were all friends with each other. So now Gizelle chimes in and she says, let the record show that nobody supported Candiace more than I did when that whole season 5 mess went down. And I said, oh, here we go. So we're talking about season 5 on the extended version on Peacock. Because y'all know if you guys had kept this part in on Sunday night, everybody would have exploded. So Candiace says, that's true, you did support me, but if I'm being honest, Robyn supported me more. She was calling me every day, checking up on me to make sure that I was all right. So of course Gizelle is mad hearing that. And now Candiace says, if I'm being really honest, I feel like Gizelle's support was fake because her support hinged on the fact that she hated Monique. So Gizelle was livid hearing that, and she's like, oh, here we go. Like, girl, get out of here. I just said, Gizelle, we can't deny the obvious. Yes, you did support Candiace, but if I'm going to be fair, and I'm saying this as somebody who was not on Monique's side, I was on Candiace's side in season 5, but I'm saying this as an objective viewer, right? Let's not pretend like a lot of your support for Candiace did not hinge on the fact that you hated Monique so badly. Because in season 6 and 7, you're all for violence. when Mia and Candiace got into it in season 6, you said to Candiace, Candiace, it's your mouth that gets you popped. And I won't be mad or I won't be surprised if somebody goes upside your head. And then you said about Wendy, well, I don't care if she gets assaulted because I don't like her. So you showed your slip right there that you really don't care about violence. It just depends on who's the victim and who's the aggressor. Because you did not like Monique, then it was all, oh, I don't like her. I don't feel safe around her. She's got to go. But had it been that you liked Monique and you hated Candiace, you would have been for Monique hitting her. And Candiace is correct that, yeah, girl, your support really wasn't real support. You only supported me because you hated her so much. Because, honestly speaking, Gizelle never liked Candiace that much either. She just liked Candiace more than she liked Monique. So we finally get back on track to talk about the issue between Robyn and Candiace. Andy wants to know if Robyn felt like Candiace was coming after her job with her tweets. So Robyn says, yeah, I felt like with Candiace's tweets about me, and then I read the Variety article, I felt like she was being critical of me, and that's not how you treat a friend. One thing about it, whether you love or hate Candiace, she's going to always give you the facts and give you the timeline and let you know why she did what she did. She says, may I just say something? Because let's go back to last year's reunion. We filmed the season 7 reunion last January, January 19th. A few days later, I believe it was January 23rd, I saw Robyn. She was out and about. She still had her reunion hair in. It was really long. And I commented that your hair looked pretty. So of course Robyn jumps in and she's like, no, you didn't say that. You said, ooh, long hair. So now Robyn says that she replied back to Candiace saying, oh, I'm guessing that this hair makes me look white adjacent, like you said to Gizelle at the reunion, and that can't be a good thing. So Candiace jumps in and says that she asked Robyn, are you mad at me? And Robyn never responded back. So now Candiace goes on to say that when all the news hit about Juan a few months later in March, she reached out to Robyn saying, hey, I'm so sorry to hear this news about you and your family. I hope you guys are doing okay. And Robyn never texted her back. She ignored the message. Then seeing Robyn talk about it on the paywall, she was just like, damn, Robyn's really on one, and that's why she tweeted all that she tweeted. And once again, Candiace is the bigger person because she says, I tweeted what I tweeted, and I'm sorry that I hurt you. It's crazy that Candiace has apologized about 3 or 4 times now in both parts, and we have yet to hear Gizelle or Robyn utter out an apology. Now, Robyn, I want you to sit back and sit tight because the way I'm about to read you down, because Miss Mamas, you tried it. Robyn jumps in talking about the reason why she ignored Candiace and didn't respond back to her because she was so hurt by the colorism conversation at the last reunion, and to be accused of being a colorist is just so sad and so sickening, and how she was just so devastated by it. She tries to force out these fake tears. I said, wait. I said, girl, I know you are not about to cry because you are being called out for colorist behavior. Now, if Candiace had yelled out, tears, 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 y'all would have ate her up for that. And if I were Candiace, I would have done that, because what you won't do is sit up there and talk about how uncomfortable you are about the colorism conversation when you have 2 women in this cast who are dealing with colorism on this show. So you want us to cry for you, Argentina, because you were so uncomfortable and so devastated about talking about colorism, but yet the people who actually do deal with colorism on a daily basis, it's just screw them and their experiences actually dealing with it, because you're sad that you have to talk about it. You are aware that you are not a victim in any of this. And you look like a dummy trying to cry about something that doesn't affect you. So Candiace jumps in and so eloquently states that growing up, her and her family discussed racism, colorism, everything under the sun. and she thought that everybody on this cast did, and she was sorely mistaken. So now you have Gizelle jumping in saying, I have no issue discussing colorism. I went to a black college. I am in a black sorority. And I said, girl, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? You can go to black institutions, be in a black sorority, fraternity, all you want to be, and you can still be colorist. You can have brown children and still be colorist. So that argument about, well, I have no issue discussing colorism and black, and you can still be colorist, sis. I hate to inform you. And now you have Gizelle and Robyn tag teaming together to blame Candiace for even bringing up colorism in the first place. And I said again, Candiace is not the one who brought this up. It was the fans, the viewers did. And it got so loud that Wendy and Candiace even said, they might be onto something. Everybody can't be wrong. And then in season 7, that's when it got brought up by Candiace and she talked about it. But what she won't do is blame Candiace. And also, if the shoe fits, then wear it. How dare you act like she's in the wrong for talking about something that is affecting her? You seem awfully defensive because you know that what everybody's saying is correct. And I'm going to say something that might be controversial. It might piss people off. I have subscribers of every race. I love everybody. I have friends of every race. But I'm going to be honest. With the Potomac fan base, on top of there being colorism, there's also racism in this fan base as well. Because if you go into some of the Facebook groups for Potomac, a lot of the white viewers have such hate and vitriol for Candiace and Wendy. The things that I've seen about them, it's like, whoa, this is alarming. And they can't even state clearly why they do not like them. There is obvious bias in this fan base, and that's another reason why Potomac has become unbearable to watch, because this fan base is so twisted and it's sick. And I don't care if you feel a way about it, because it's the truth. There's a lot of racism in this fan base as well, and colorism. Because I have some people who like Gizelle, Ashley, and Robyn, and every time they talk about, oh, well, you know, it's not the same. Candiace, I just don't like her. She's evil. Why don't you like her? Give me a clear reason. Why don't you like Candiace? If we're going by the same mindset of Candiace's mouth is reckless, then let's talk about Ashley. I can go down the list. That woman accused Monique of being an alcoholic and said that that was the reason why she miscarried. Let's speak about that. Is that not reckless? Is that not defamation? Is that not evil and cruel to say? And she barely apologized when she was addressed about it at the reunion in season 3. She went around telling everybody who would listen that Robyn and Juan only had $25 in their bank account. Is that not reckless and evil? Let the record show anytime Candiace has read anybody down, Candiace only did that in retaliation to what somebody said to her first. She never started a fight, she ended it. Ashley starts a fight, throws a rock and hides her hand, and then plays innocent. So again, I want you to check your bias about why you do not like Candiace and Wendy, because I've seen non-black viewers on various social media platforms say that they don't like Wendy because they think that she's arrogant. There's nobody more arrogant than Gizelle, but Wendy is proud of herself about her degrees, and you can't stand that? Check yourself in the mirror about why you like certain people and why you don't like others. And before anybody says, oh, Brooke, well, you seem to only like the brown girls. Well, no, because I get on everybody when they mess up. And also, let the record show, when this show first came on, I actually liked Gizelle and Robyn. I thought they were fun. So let's kill that noise about, oh, you only defend Wendy and Candiace, you only like them because you're dark and they're dark too. No, let's not do that. But again, I would like everybody to observe their privileges and their biases and really ask yourself, why don't you like Candiace? Why does Candiace being spoiled rub you the wrong way? But when you see other housewives who are of lighter or fairer complexions and other races, they grew up the same way and that doesn't bother you. And I'm gonna leave it right there. But Robyn and Gizelle, you are nobody's victim. And Robyn, you look so dumb trying to cry about how the colorism conversation was uncomfortable for you. Dr. Wendy was the MVP of this part 2. She jumps in and says, let's step back for a minute. This is the equivalent to a black and a white person having a conversation and the white person saying, man, I'm so upset that you called me a racist. But when is the conversation ever going to shift to, but why did you believe me to be a racist? Does that make sense? Of course, those two clowns don't say anything because God forbid they ever give Wendy her propers. But Andy says, yeah, that does make sense. I understand what you're saying. I said, come through, Wendy. And the way Wendy really ate, because you have Karen jumping in and she says, if I'm being honest, there's no better group of black women on Bravo to discuss colorism. Wendy said, we're not going to play this game. That's not true. That's incorrect. Because if you want to discuss colorism, then you have to have the range to discuss colorism. And a lot of folks on this couch don't have the range. And I'm going to leave it right there. I said, whack them again, please.
I'm gonna just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
I said, Wendy, if you don't preach, and Karen's face was cracked, and I said, Karen, I love you and all, sis, but what she said was the truth. And it's a joke that you believe that you guys are the best group of black women to discuss colorism. Y'all barely discussed it last season at the reunion. That was a joke of a conversation, and that was a waste of everybody's time. Also, Karen, let's not forget when Wendy came on this show in season 5. You said out of your mouth that you didn't believe that Wendy was a fit. And when Wendy asked you, why did you say that, Karen? And why wasn't I a fit? You glossed over it saying, you know what, Wendy, I'm sorry. Let's just get to know each other and move from there. So sis, I wouldn't be saying anything about we're the best group because you were also acting real funny and I had to give you a side eye for quite some time because it was definitely giving colorist for you to say, oh, Wendy does not fit into this group or Potomac. Because again, girl, why does she not fit? I'll wait. And Nneka trying to jump in and she's asking Robyn and Gizelle, why are they being accused of being colorist? And Robyn's like, well, I don't know because we argue with the brown girls, but they know that me and Karen have gotten into it. I've gotten into it with Ashley for 3 years. And I said, again, like I said at the beginning of this recap, there's a difference in how you argue with the brown girls versus how you argue with Ashley and Karen. Because you and Karen are still able to talk, joke around, be in the same room together. You and Ashley are still friends despite your history. But the minute Wendy and Candiace get into it with you guys, y'all cut them off. There's no communication. You don't like them. You laugh at them getting assaulted. There's no apologies. There's nothing. That's why people call you colorist. Because how come you're able to move on when you argue with the ladies who are your complexion, but you can't seem to move forward and move on when you argue with Wendy and Candiace? I was over it. I said, let's just wrap this up. I'm just too done because we're never going to hear Robyn or Gizelle admit to their wrongs. They're never going to own up to anything. So let's just wrap this up. And I was happy when Andy said, you know what? Obviously, you guys aren't going to mend fences anytime soon, so let's just move on. But he does want to know from Candiace, is there any way for her and Robyn to move on and become friends again? And Candiace says, look, worse has been done in this group, and if this is what's going to end our friendship, then so be it. I don't even care anymore. And I said, exactly. So they take a mini break. They're all getting touched up in their dressing rooms. The husbands are getting ready because they're going to join their wives out on stage. So now we see Nneka talking in her dressing room with Ike and Mia, and Nneka's like, I've been dragged all over social media. I haven't said anything, and I just want my chance to clear my name and, you know, explain myself. And Mia was like, girl, this is the time to do that because otherwise it's going to look like you're just a viewer watching from the audience. And I just said, ooh. And yeah, it does look like that because we've only heard Nneka say about 5 words total throughout this reunion. Honestly, I won't be surprised if Nneka doesn't come back. I've heard from sources that Nneka is supposed to come back. Now I'm hearing that Nneka is on the chopping block as well, and that it's a 50-50 toss-up on her. And listen, Nneka, unless we see you speak up and give us something in the third part, you probably are going to be chopped because you didn't bring anything. You have Ike trying to give Nneka some advice. He's just like, say what you have to say. Don't let anybody interrupt you. Then he says that if push comes to shove, he'll speak on her behalf. And Nneka snaps at him. She's like, you will not say anything on my behalf. Don't say anything or else you'll be with Juan Dixon. I was just like, girl, your husband's just trying to help you out. And Nneka, you obviously don't like that man because the way you talk to him with such disdain. And Nneka, you have to do a better job with your paid bots because your paid bots came for me on Twitter. They were upset when I pointed out how poorly you speak to him. And they were all like, where is your husband at? And all that stuff. And I was just like, girl, not these paid bots. Now everybody's back on stage, including the husbands, and I just had to laugh because 8 reunions in, and we have yet to see anybody sit behind Gizelle. And we've only seen Juan come to 1 reunion. I think that was season 3. But Robyn is also solo on her own because Juan Dixon decided that he didn't want to show up for his wife. When Andy went around the room and he asked Eddie how he was doing, he was like, oh, by the way, how's Happy Eddie doing in business? And we find out that Happy Eddie has already made $2 million in 6 months. I said, come through.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
You see how God will really bless you in front of your enemies because Gizelle and Ashley's raggedy friend sat up there lying on Eddie, calling him Happy Eddie, saying that he was flirting and wanted them. When, look at that, they turned that into a money maker because they made $2 million in 6 months. And Gizelle, what has Every Hue Beauty made? Oh, I forgot, it's defunct. And let's see how much G&A makes. So now Andy addresses Chris Bassett and how he was barely in any scenes this season, and he wants to know, was that purposely done? And the way I love Chris Bassett, he was just like, honestly, it was by design. And if I'm not wanted, I'm not going to come around. Now we have Andy asking Chris Bassett if he is of the mind that Robyn was fake supportive and she was in on the whole plan last season. And Chris makes it clear that he left last season in last season. He does not want to talk about it ever again. He's cool. He's done with it. He's good. So now Andy goes on to ask him a follow-up question about the woman who lied on him, saying that she slept with him and they had an affair and she had an abortion for him. And Andy wants to know, what was that about? Have you ever met that woman? And Chris says, nope, don't know her, don't know what that was about. Like, next question. So now you have Robyn Dixon interjecting, and she has the audacity to ask Chris, so what about those screenshots though? And I said, Robyn, you really can't help yourself. You truly have gotten beside yourself to question anybody, and you already know that it's a lie. But Robyn brings up the screenshots, and she's like, so the lady photoshopped the screenshots? Chris says, I don't know her, never met her. No idea what you're talking about. And Chris is saying it in a way where he's pretty much telling Robyn, shut the F up, don't speak to me. And Robyn, the fact that you kept going, you kept saying, but the screenshots though, but the screenshots. And I'm like, now, if Chris had cursed you out, I would have been here for it. Because, Miss Mamas, let me just get you together quickly. You are sitting home with a serial cheater who won't even come to the reunion to defend your honor. You hid an entire storyline. You don't want to talk about anything going on in your life, but you think that it's all right for you to question Chris Bassett about something that you know is a lie. Juan said on national TV in season 2 that if it were not for the children, he would have been left you. He said that. And you sat there like a dummy and still got back together with this man. and didn't even sign a prenup. But you want to question somebody else about a lie. So now you have Andy bringing up how Candiace believes that Robyn and Gizelle were behind this rumor. You have Gizelle talking loud, and she's like, I'm not behind anything. The woman even said, please leave Gizelle out of this. She has nothing to do with this. She said that. So do not say that I was behind anything. I said, girl, shut up. Girl, you and Robyn probably were behind this and probably paid this woman to lie on Chris anyhow. I'm just like Candiace. I don't believe a word coming out of your mouth, and I don't put anything past you either. And Chris Bassett, somebody cut you a check because the way you cleared Gizelle effortlessly, I said, whack her again, please. Chris says, the same way you feel how you feel, Candiace feels how she feels, and that's fine. So you have Gizelle ignoring him, and she's like, well, I don't know that woman. That's what she said. So Chris says again, Candiace said she felt away the same way you said you felt away about what happened 2 years ago. Clocked. I said, come through, Chris. That was so perfectly done. He didn't curse her out. He didn't raise his voice, got her right on together. Gizelle had nothing to say. She just sat there looking so dumb. Face was tight. Chris was so done with her and this dumb conversation. He said, next question, please. Again, it just shows you the arrogance where Gizelle believes that she's allowed to feel how she feels, accuse people of things, but when other people feel a type of way about her actions, then she's upset and almost feels like they're in the wrong for calling her out. So we jump off of that, and now Andy brings up how Juan isn't here, and he wants to know, what do the other men think about Juan not coming to support his wife? Of course, nobody says anything. I think Eddie says something under his breath, like, he's a grown man, he can do whatever he wants. Honestly, nobody had to say anything because you could tell by everybody's facial expressions and body language that they all felt like Juan is a coward and a fool to let his wife sit here and take all the mess. Because the point of having a spouse is to have a partner in life, and they should have your back. And Juan is showing that he does not care about Robyn and does not have her back. This is a slap in the face that she's here once again solo because Juan Dixon couldn't bother to get out of bed and support his wife. Even Gordon is by Mia's side and they're about to get a divorce. But we end this second part with Gordon saying that he's excited to be here. He has a lot to get off of his chest. He knows that the fans have questions. This group has questions. And he goes on to say that there's some stuff that they don't know. And we see Mia crying and that's where it ends. Y'all, I don't think you understand how happy I'm going to be when Potomac is off my damn screen. Don't ask me about reviewing season 9 at this rate. I don't think I'm going to be reviewing it. I think that I'm going to be tapped out after this season. I'm just done. This has been a painful season to watch and to get through. It's been infuriating. And the fact that it seems like there are no consequences for Gizelle's actions, then there's no point in me still trying to watch this show. If nothing is going to change, I'm not going to keep wasting my time. I have better things to do than to sit up here and get upset watching this and talking about it. It's not fun anymore. And that's putting it nicely. But when part 3 comes out, I'm going to rejoice. Do not be surprised if I get on here with the biggest bottle of champagne and I'm just drinking for the remainder of the recap.
We drinking strawberry and champagne. Hold on, let me get a strawberry. Let me get a strawberry. I love it. Drop it in my drink. I say, now we really drinking.
But guys, that was my recap. I hope you enjoyed. And thank you all so much for watching. You already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.